Okay, next item is the student handbook first read for 2013, 2014.
This is the first read. I know we received some edits from Mr. Walsh. John resubmitted his memo. The track version is posted now. We do have parents, a student, a board member on the committee. That goes through our school board, the student handbook. The board does approve this every year.
Teachers also.
Teachers, there is also teachers on there. First read, as I said, Mr. Walsh submitted some general edits. John and his group and the committee will be looking at those edits. We'll probably have a second read, and we'll probably bring this to approval in the April meeting, a third and final read.
Okay.
I had one on the grades. Is that the multiplier, should it be 1.25? Because if I multiply 4 by 1.125, it doesn't come out to 5.
I would
Okay.
ask that you probably submit that in.
68.
Okay.
Laura, if you could just submit that in writing, just send me a quick email, and I can
Okay.
give it to John and have it explained in the.
Okay, because I don't know if it's a typo or math. I'm not
Tim,
doing
were you
math.
coming? I'm sorry, I don't have the rest.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just
Tim,
shoot me a
I-
one-sentence email
I have a
for that
question.
if you could.
Yes, Dan.
All right, I went through this today, and I picked up a bunch of things that I submit need to be changed. Do I send them to you?
No, you send them to me.
Send them to you?
Send it to
All right, got it.
So this is what I want all go to Kevin because we have one central area that we can
That's
send.
fine.
Tim,
Okay.
are these your comments on towards the end there on the?
No, the track version is
That's what the committee came
committee's.
up with.
This is committees.
Yes.
Oh, so we haven't,
Yeah.
the stuff. did
Tim
you
sent
send
it
stuff in the
via email to
Okay.
all of the
We did
board
all those
members.
bugs on the side, those
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question. It's just kind of peripherally related to this. Why did we change the bell schedule for next year?
Pam?
The bell schedule actually was changed this year because in order to balance the periods, because so much time, more time is lost of first period because of reading announcements. So it was, we gathered data and, the teachers and the administrators looked at it. It was just a balance so that for lab classes especially, that they have the same amount of time about for each of their classes.
Thank you.
What I would ask is if the board has concerns or things they want to be considered for change, you send them to me. I'll forward them to John to review with the committee.
Do you have a date you want to buy?
I would say before the next board meeting, just like we do
Okay.
with the board questions, because I want to provide the committee, there's no reason of having a committee put together if the board's going to edit and make the changes.
So why don't we say
guess-
this, all changes should be into Kevin by the 4th. This will give him some time.
No problem. So Kevin, so you're saying, Tim, your stuff isn't in here, the little bullet stuff?
I put the bullets on it, the comments that are
Here,
in
in
PDF.
this
Yeah.
one?
No.
No,
these are His is in an email.
I
attached.
emailed it to you.
Okay, so I guess okay, maybe I was looking at something else, but does everything in here correlate with our policy? Who's gonna decide that?
That's what they have a committee for, that
Well, no,
When a
I'm
board
talking
member
about-
checks the
well,
policy.
Who's doing that?
Mike Welch.
Oh, Mike is.
Mike is on
Okay.
We've done this for three.
I just
this
want
is
to double
three-
check. I don't want people shoving stuff in here and then it's like, it's against our board policy, that's all.
Well,
I think one of Tim's
basically,
comments
it's
was-
been in here for a long time, and the edits are very minor-ish.
Okay.
So it's not like they're rewriting whole sections.
Well, that was
Tim
one
had a
comment
comment.
that it should say, this is for, use, and it's kind of summarizing our board policies, and if there's a conflict, the board policy prevails, because I didn't go look, Mike, you probably did, but the definition of like sexual harassment or whatever, it's in the policy. We wouldn't want to write it different in here.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe, well, for one, we as board members, all of us are responsible to make sure that this is compliant with our policy. Now, we shouldn't be asking who is.
No,
We
I
are.
disagree with that. Because I'm not an expert in reading this. It'd take me 4 hours to read this thing thoroughly. And I can expect Kevin or someone to be responsible saying,
And Mike
our
is on
board
it.
policy, we're responsible for the board policy.
That's right.
And I want someone to be able to say, yes, everything in here correlates with board policy. That's my concern. I don't have to micromanage and read and edit this whole thing. It's not my job. My
But-
job is to make sure that someone's responsible with the policy here. is
And
being
you have
followed.
Mike on the committee, a board member who.
Well, I just want to be sure of that.
Mike, will
And
your
it-
committee meet again?
It's Well, I don't have any meeting date on the calendar.
And just so that the board is aware, we're involved right now in the West 40 compliance, preparing for their compliance visit, where they're gonna come and see if we're doing things according to school code and the mandates. And some of the adjustments that Mr. Passarella made to this was to make sure that when we looked at that compliance document and went back to the board policy, that our handbook referred to that and everything was in sync. So that's some of what you've seen. If you've seen highlighted with the Illinois State School Code, you've seen some of those additions. That's why we were doing that, to try and sync up the two.
Okay.
I think a great way to handle this is that please get me your changes by March 4th.
Yeah.
I'll
Just-
tell Mr. Passarella to schedule another committee meeting so they could see the board's changes. They have an electronic copy now of our board policy, which is easily searchable, that they can reference it if they think.
Yeah.
I don't think we've made, this is the same book you approved last year. We didn't changing a bell schedule isn't necessarily like board policy. We're not
That's why
changing
it's-
zero tolerance or
That's why I asked the
anything.
question, do we have to approve it? I mean, one thing you gotta understand is, we're a year farther down in our being on the board.
Right.
We're learning as
Yeah.
we go.
So I will just,
And I would tell you, I would suggest an overhaul of this writing because it works, but some of my comments, I actually said, when you get early on, next stage, consider, that was kind of my thought. They already put a lot of time and effort into it. I'm not suggesting they rewrite the thing. I'm just suggesting, since you asked us and you want the board to do it, there might be a few improvements that could be made going
Sure.
down the road.
and here's kind of how the cycle goes. The book gets printed at a certain date, and we pay for it, and we get it in every student's hands prior to the first day or on the first day of school, and we have them sign for the book. And then they're responsible for what's in the book, and I think the book says that during the year, things could change, even though it's written at this point in time.
And if we have any issues with it, one of the key pieces of information to give us is a signed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then, from that point in time, people will pick up on changes or something, and Mr. Passarella keeps a log of every change that needs to be made going forward, and then sometime around the first of the year, or shortly after Thanksgiving and Christmas area, you start drafting it up for the next year. And, one of my questions to him is always, what is the drop dead date for this that you want from the board? Get it to us a lot earlier.
Right.
And so that's where we are. We got it to you pretty early. I don't recall what the drop date is to send it to the printer.
It's in May.
Sounds like May.
End of
It's in
April,
May.
first week of May.
Yeah,
I think,
so-
something like that.
Sending all your ideas and changes is great, but he describes it as a living and breathing document because as things change, I know we went through that time period where we didn't allow any electronic stuff in the classroom or in the hallway, and then we tried that for a couple weeks at the end of the year, a little short time ago, and so it's going to evolve but this is basically what the students are going to be responsible for. And when you get to a student discipline hearing, obviously they're not going to read everything before they sign it, but they are signing that they're going to be responsible for the general provisions that are in there. Specifically, students don't bring weapons or knives or any of the bad stuff into our school. That's one thing that's clearly spelled out in there that we've had to actually pull out the book and have the student, did you understand this? And basically they do. So that's kind of how the cycle works, so.
And it's our policy that these have to be a printed document. They can't be an online document that we have them sign off on.
We do,
that
we
they-
do, it is online on our website, but remember, the other reason we do it in printing is because of the executive functioning, so kids have a day planner to write down their assignments.
Yeah, there's an assignment section and a calendar section and.
I know you were thinking about the 8600 that we use in the printing.
I'm just, how many actually.
All right, so by March 4th, on Monday, get your changes to Kevin so that he can forward it on to Handbook Committee. Thanks, Mike, for serving on that.